Roman had always been a quiet boy, quiet not because he lacked words, but because he lived in a home where words had no space to breathe. His father's shouts filled the walls more loudly than any conversation ever could. At 17, Roman had learned to read danger by sound alone: the sharp crack of a bottle cap, the metallic thud of a beer can on the table, the uneven footsteps that echoed through the hall every evening. His father, Harold, once a hard-working mechanic, had changed after Roman's mother died. Whatever light had lived in him dimmed the day she left the world. He fell into drinking as if alcohol were the only air left to breathe. Every day after work, he staggered home reeking of beer, slumping into his worn-out armchair, muttering to himself before slipping into drunken sleep. But nights were worse. That's when the shouting began. Roman would sit in his room on the second floor, staring at the ceiling as the muffled roars rose from below. His father didn't shout at anyone in particular, just at life, fate, the world, and sometimes at Roman for simply existing. It wasn't physical violence, not yet, but emotional wounds sometimes cut deeper, and Roman carried many of them like invisible scars. He hated seeing his father destroy himself. He hated the clinking bottles piling in the corners. He hated how neighbors whispered about their house with pity in their eyes. Most of all, he hated the fear that lived permanently in his chest. Yet he endured because despite everything, he still loved his father. And loving someone who was broken was a battle that drained him a little more each day. One evening, Roman came home from school to find his father asleep on the couch, a half-empty bottle resting on his stomach. The stench of alcohol was so strong that Roman almost gagged. Dad, wake up," Roman whispered, shaking his shoulder gently. Harold stirred, groaned, then opened his red, unfocused eyes. "Wah, Roman, what time is it?" "It's 8. You missed dinner again," Roman said sadly. Harold rubbed his face, confused, lost in the fog of drunkenness. "What do you want from me?" "Huh," he snapped suddenly. "You want me to pretend everything's fine? That your mother—" He stopped himself, but the damage was done. Roman stepped back. "I just want you to stop drinking." His father's eyes sharpened. "Don't you tell me what to do. You're just a kid. You know nothing." The words stung, but Roman swallowed the pain. "Dad, you promised. You said you'd try." Harold pushed himself up, wobbling. "I try every day. But you look at me like I'm a failure. Because you're acting like one," Roman snapped. Unable to hold it in any longer, the room froze. Harold's hands clenched into fists not to hit Roman, but because the truth felt like a blow. His voice cracked into anger, frustration, and grief. "You think I wanted this? You think I enjoy drowning myself every night? I lost your mother. I lost everything." Roman's chest tightened. "You still have me." But Harold didn't hear him. He staggered into the kitchen, grabbed another bottle, and stormed out of the house. Slamming the door behind him, Roman stood alone in the quiet house that suddenly felt too big, too empty. For the first time, he cried, not because his father yelled, but because Roman finally realized something terrifying. His father was no longer just hurting himself, he was hurting Roman too. Weeks passed. The drinking got worse. The arguments became more frequent. Roman began avoiding home, staying late in the library or wandering around town just to delay facing the chaos inside his house. But one night, the breaking point came. Roman had just finished a school project he had been working on for days, a science model he was proud of. He carried it home carefully, excited to show his father. He knew it was unlikely Harold would react positively, but a small part of him hoped. Maybe this time things would be different. He stepped inside and froze. The living room was a mess, bottles everywhere, furniture slightly out of place as if a storm had moved through. Harold sat in his armchair, heavily drunk, staring blankly at an empty wall. "I made something. For school?" Roman said gently, placing the model on the table. Harold blinked slowly. "What's that supposed to be?" "It's a solar system model." I thought maybe before he could finish, Harold swatted at the table clumsily, knocking the entire model to the floor. It shattered. Roman's heart dropped. "Dad, why did you—" Harold stood, swaying. "I don't need this. I don't need your projects. I don't need your pity." "It wasn't pity. I just wanted you to care," Roman shouted, voice breaking. Harold's eyes filled with tears, not of sadness, but drunken confusion. He pushed Roman away, harder than he intended. Roman stumbled into the wall. Everything stopped. Harold stared at his own hands, horrified at what he'd done. "Roman, I didn't mean." Roman stepped back, shaking. "Don't touch me, son, please. No, I'm done." Roman's chest heaved with pain and fury. "If you won't fix your life, then I'll fix mine. Without you." He grabbed his bag and ran out the door, the cold night air slapping his face as tears blurred his vision. For hours he wandered the dark streets. He didn't know where he was going. He didn't care. He just needed to get away. When he finally returned home past midnight, he found his father asleep on the floor surrounded by shattered glass. Something inside Roman hardened that night. He wasn't just upset anymore. He was angry. Angry that his childhood was stolen by bottles. Angry that his father chose alcohol over him every single day. Angry that he had to live in fear while the man who was supposed to protect him destroyed everything instead. Roman made himself a promise. If his father wouldn't change, Roman would make him, one way or another. Revenge was never Roman's nature. He wasn't cruel. He wasn't violent. But pain changes people. and Roman was slowly evolving, becoming someone who no longer wanted to endure, but to act. He didn't want to hurt his father physically. He didn't want to become like him, but he wanted justice for the years of suffering, the nights of fear, the dreams crushed under drunken rage. He wanted to make his father face his own reflection. He wanted Harold to feel the consequences of everything he'd ignored, denied, and drowned. Roman began observing his father more closely, tracking his routines, his weak points, his vulnerabilities. He studied alcohol's effect on human behavior for a school research project, but secretly, he was studying one person, his father. Over the next weeks he spoke less, smiled less, slept less, but thought more. His mind stitched together plans, not violent plans, strategic ones. Plans that would expose Harold's addiction, forced him to see the damage he caused, push him to a breaking point where change was the only option left. Roman wasn't looking for simple revenge. He wanted transformational revenge, one that would destroy the old Harold and rebuild a new one, and deep down, he hoped, maybe it would save their family too. The spark that ignited the fire. One rainy afternoon, Harold was fired from his job. Drinking had slowed him, made him careless, unprofessional. When he came home, drenched and trembling, he threw his tools on the floor. "It's their fault," he muttered. "They don't understand me." But Roman understood. He knew exactly why Harold was fired. That day became Roman's spark. The moment where revenge wasn't just an idea, it became a mission. Revenge not out of hatred but out of necessity. Roman would save his father by ruining him first, and Harold would never see it coming. Roman woke the next morning with a mind sharper than it had been in years. For the first time, he didn't feel helpless. He didn't feel small. He felt in control, quietly, silently, dangerously in control. His father, however, was spiraling. Losing his job made Harold drink earlier, faster, more desperately. Beer bottles lined the kitchen counter like an army of glass soldiers. Roman watched him from the doorway, hands trembling, eyes glassy. Soul drowning in guilt, he refused to acknowledge. Something inside Roman whispered, "This is the moment. Start now." And so he did. Roman didn't want to embarrass his father publicly, not yet. But he needed others to see the truth, so Harold couldn't hide behind excuses anymore. He started with the neighbors. Mrs. Keaton, the old woman who lived next door, always greeted Roman warmly whenever she saw him walking to school. One day, Roman approached her with red, tired eyes. He didn't have to lie. The exhaustion was real. "Are you all right, dear?" she asked with concern. Roman lowered his voice. "My dad, he's drinking a lot more now. I don't know what to do." Her expression darkened with sympathy. "Oh, Roman?" Before she could comfort him, Harold stumbled loudly onto the front porch, yelling Roman's name. When he saw Mrs. Keaton, he tried to act normal, but his swaying body and slurred words betrayed him. Roman didn't say anything. He didn't need to. By that evening, the entire street was whispering. Harold noticed. He heard the murmurs. He saw the looks. But instead of stopping, he drowned himself deeper in alcohol, and Roman watched. He didn't feel satisfaction. He felt sorrow mixed with a growing fire. Roman needed Harold to break, to reach a point where he had to confront himself. So he targeted the last thing. Harold valued his reputation before he lost his job. Harold was respected as a skilled mechanic. People still asked him for small repairs out of habit. But Roman began carefully sabotaging that image, not by lying, but by exposing the truth. Whenever someone approached their house asking for Harold's help, Roman would stand in the doorway and say, "I'm sorry. Dad can't help right now. He's not well." A shadow would move behind Roman. Harold, staggering in the hallway, holding a bottle or shouting suddenly at nothing at all. People saw. They understood. Within days, no one asked for Harold's help anymore. He felt the shift. It crushed him. Once proud, he now felt like a ghost wandering his own home. One afternoon, he threw a hammer across the kitchen in frustration, shouting, "Why does everyone think I'm some worthless drunk?" Roman looked at him, eyes steady but cold. "You tell me." Harold froze. He had no answer. Revenge wasn't about violence, not for Roman. It was about awakening. And to awaken someone, sometimes you have to burn everything blocking their sight. One night, Roman walked into the living room and turned off the TV. Harold looked up, irritated. "What do you want now?" he muttered. Roman sat across from him, hands clasped, heart heavy but determined. "We need to talk." Harold scoffed and reached for another beer. "Nothing to talk about." Roman grabbed the bottle first. His father stiffened. "Dad, look at yourself," Roman said softly. "Look at what you've become." "I'm fine." "No, you're not. You lost your job. You lost your respect. You almost lost me." Harold's jaw tightened. "Don't lecture me, Roman." Roman leaned forward. "You threw me into a wall the other night. You smashed my school project. You scream at me every day. And you don't even remember." Harold froze. A wave of shame washed over his face, quickly hidden by anger. "You think you know pain? You think losing your mother didn't destroy me?" "I lost her too," Roman whispered, "but I didn't destroy myself over it." "You did?" Harold slumped back, eyes glazing over. "You don't understand. I understand more than you think. And I'm done letting you hurt me." He stood. "This house, your addiction, your anger, it ends now." The next evening, Harold came home smelling like he'd bathed in alcohol. But this time was different. He didn't shout. He didn't complain. He just sat on the couch, staring blankly. Roman approached him slowly. Dad. Harold didn't look up. Roman swallowed hard. You're going to lose everything if you don't stop. Harold whispered, in a voice that trembled like a child's. I already have. Roman's breath caught in his throat, for the first time in years. Harold's voice wasn't angry broken. Roman sat beside him. I'm still here, he said quietly, but I won't be forever. Harold finally looked at him as red, filled with regret. Why? Why are you doing this to me, son? He asked. Roman felt a painful pinch in his chest. I'm not doing anything to you, he replied. You're doing it to yourself. I'm just showing you the truth. Harold put his face in his hands. His voice cracked. I can't stop. I don't know how. Roman exhaled, shaking slightly. Then I'll make you. Harold stared at him, confused. Roman's voice turned cold, not cruel, but resolute. I'm going to take away every excuse, every escape, every bottle, until you're forced to face yourself. Harold's eyes widened with fear. You wouldn't? Roman stood slowly, looking down at him. Watch me. The next day, Roman took action. He went through the entire house. The kitchen, the drawers, the garage, the basement, the shed, even the backyard. He found every hidden stash of beer, every bottle kept for later, every can tucked away where Harold thought no one would look, and Roman dumped them all. The sink ran with foamy alcohol, the trash filled with broken bottles. The house smelled like bitter destruction. Harold came home and saw the empty shelves. He panicked. Where are my beers? Roman didn't answer. Where are they? Roman looked him in the eyes. Gone. You had no right, Harold shouted, shaking with withdrawal and rage. Roman stepped closer, fearless. You had no right to ruin my life either. Harold froze. Tears filled his eyes. His breathing turned uneven, but Roman didn't step back. He didn't waver. This was part of the plan. Break him. Forced him to choose. Destroy the old version of him completely. Harold sank to his knees. I can't do this, he whispered. Roman crouched beside him. You can, but you won't do it alone. Harold looked up at him, trembling. For the first time, Roman saw something new in his father's eyes. Fear, real fear, not of Roman, but of losing him. And that fear was exactly what Roman needed, because now the revenge could evolve. Now the transformation could begin. The night after Roman destroyed all the alcohol in the house, Harold couldn't sleep. His body shook. His skin felt like it was crawling. His mind drifted between rage, guilt, and panic. He paced the living room, breathing heavily, muttering to himself. Roman watched him silently from the hallway. He wasn't afraid. He wasn't angry. He was determined. This was the part of his revenge he had been preparing for, the moment where Harold's world crumbled. Completely. Because only in the ashes could something new be built. Hours passed as Harold struggled. He gripped the kitchen counter to steady himself. He moaned in discomfort. He splashed cold water on his face. He even considered running out to buy more alcohol. But Roman had already seen the car keys and wallet tucked safely in his own room. Harold was trapped not by Roman, but by his own addiction. Sometime near dawn, Harold collapsed onto the hardwood floor, whispering, I can't do this. Roman stepped into the room, gently but firmly. Yes, you can, he said softly. You're just scared. Harold looked up, eyes swollen from crying, face pale and sweaty. You don't understand, he pleaded. It's like something inside me is tearing me apart. Roman knelt beside him. That's the same thing you've been doing to me for years, he whispered, expression twisted with guilt. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Roman's heart cracked. He didn't want to pity his father, not after everything he had suffered. But seeing him like this, broken, helpless, human, it shook him still. His revenge wasn't finished. Not yet. Later that morning, Roman made soup for Harold. He placed it on the table without a word. Harold stared at the bowl, confused. You're helping me? He muttered. Roman didn't look at him. I'm helping myself. I can't live in a house with a dying father. Harold winced. I never meant to hurt you. You have to believe me. Roman took a deep breath and sat down across from him. You didn't mean to at first, but then you stopped caring. Harold's voice broke. I cared. I always cared. Then why didn't you stop drinking? Roman asked. Harold looked down at his shaking hands. Because drinking was the only thing that made the guilt quieter. Roman blinked. Guilt about what? Harold hesitated, then whispered. Your mother. The room froze. Roman's chest tightened. What about her? He demanded. Harold's eyes filled with tears. She asked me. She begged me to stop drinking before she died. She told me she wanted you to grow up safe, strong, loved. Roman's breath shattered inside him. And you ignored her. Harold nodded slowly. I promised her. I promised her I'd take care of you, that I'd protect you, that I'd be better. But when she died, I fell apart. I wasn't strong like she was. I wasn't brave like you. He looked up with trembling regret. I became the monster she feared I'd become. Roman clenched his jaw. For years, he had imagined 1,000 reasons for Harold's behavior, anger, selfishness, grief, but this confession hit him like a punch to the chest, that it wasn't an excuse, but it was a truth. You still hurt me, Roman said quietly. I know. Tears fell down Harold's cheeks. And if you never forgive me, I deserve that. Roman stared at him, feeling a storm inside. danger, sorrow, compassion, pain, memories of his mother, memories of fear, memories of loneliness. And then he said the words he had been waiting to say for years. You're going to fix this, with me or without me. Roman turned into a caretaker, a guardian, a commander. The house became a silent battlefield where every day was a fight. He made Harold drink water on schedule. He kept him warm when the chills hit. He stayed up at night when Harold's body trembled violently. He talked to him when the panic set in. He forced him to walk outside in the sunlight to rebuild strength. He yelled when he needed to. He comforted when he had to. He stood firm when Harold begged for just one drink. It wasn't easy. Not for Harold. Not for Roman. Sometimes Roman locked himself in his room just to cry in silence. Sometimes Harold screamed into pillows, ashamed of needing his own son to save him. But day by day, step by step, Harold got better. His hands stopped shaking. His eyes became clearer. His voice steadied. His anger faded. And for the first time in years, he started acting like a father. One evening, Harold walked into Roman's room. He stood in the doorway, nervous, almost trembling. "Roman," he said softly, "can I talk to you?" Roman looked up from his homework. "Yeah." Harold took a shaky breath. "I saw your school awards today. The certificates on your shelf." Roman frowned. "Okay." Harold's voice cracked. "I wasn't there for any of them." Roman looked away. Harold's tears fell freely this time. "You were doing everything right," he whispered. "And I was doing everything wrong." Roman swallowed hard. "I didn't do it for you," he said quietly. "I did it because Mom wanted me to." Harold nodded, shoulders shaking. "I know. And I know I don't deserve another chance. But," he knelt on the floor and bowed his head, "I want one, please." Roman froze. Seeing a father kneeling before his son wasn't something anyone ever expected to witness. But Harold wasn't kneeling out of weakness. He was kneeling out of realization, out of remorse, out of love, out of the pain of seeing what he had almost destroyed. Roman walked toward him and placed a hand on his shoulder. "I'll give you one chance," he said slowly. "Just one." Harold looked up, eyes red but full of hope. "I won't waste it." Roman nodded once. "This is your last chance. If you break it, I walk away." Harold swallowed. "I understand." Roman didn't realize it at the time, but his revenge was already complete. Revenge wasn't about hurting his father physically. It wasn't about humiliating him. It wasn't about destruction. His revenge was deeper. He made Harold feel the pain Roman had carried for years, the loneliness, the fear, the regret, the helplessness. He forced Harold to confront himself, to suffer his own consequences, to break down until there was nothing left but truth. And only then, only in that destroyed version of himself could Harold finally rebuild. Roman didn't forgive him. Not yet, not fully. Forgiveness would come in the final part, but for now, revenge was fulfilled, and healing was beginning. The night Roman dragged his unconscious father out of the burning farmhouse stayed in his mind for months, not as a moment of heroism, but as a brutal reminder of what alcohol had turned his father into. Some people change after a near-death experience, but Roman's father didn't. If anything, he became worse. After the fire incident, Samuel began drinking even more. He blamed Roman for ruining his night, for interfering with a man's life, for acting like a hero. The town whispered more loudly now. Teachers avoided eye contact. Roman felt like he was carrying a shame that wasn't his. But something inside him had changed. He wasn't scared anymore. He was angry. He was done pretending. Roman realized something important. Revenge wasn't about hurting his father. It was about freeing himself from him. So Roman built a plan, not with violence, not with shouting, but with intelligence. He began gathering proof. Every bottle scattered across the floor. Every time Samuel passed out on the porch. Every moment he screamed at Roman recorded quietly on his phone. Roman also visited the local guidance counselor, Mr. Levin, who became the first adult to truly listen. Together they contacted social services, psychologists, and even a community support program. For the first time, Roman wasn't alone. Samuel, lost in alcohol, didn't notice that the world was slowly circling around him. One night, Samuel crashed through the door, drunker than ever. He dropped a bottle, grabbed Roman's shoulder, and tried to shout, but Roman didn't flinch this time. Instead, he placed a file of documents and recordings on the table. Samuel blinked in confusion. "What's all this?" Roman's voice was steady, powerful. "It's everything you've done. Every bottle, every night, every bruise on my life. I'm done living in your shadow, Dad. Tomorrow, I'm leaving. And because of these," he tapped the recordings, "you won't be allowed to hurt yourself for me again." Samuel stared. The alcohol finally fighting with something stronger, fear. For the first time, Roman saw his father afraid of him, not because Roman was violent, but because Roman was finally strong. The next morning, social workers arrived with police. Samuel tried to hide the bottles, tried to act normal, but the truth was louder than his excuses. He was forced to enter mandatory rehabilitation, monitored by the state. Roman walked out of the house with a single backpack, not crying, not shaking. Free. Roman moved into a student housing program. The silence felt strange. At first it wasn't filled with yelling, breaking bottles, or heavy footsteps. It felt like peace, like starting over. He joined a fitness club, started studying psychology, and even made friends who didn't know him as the kid with the drunk father, just Roman. He discovered he had an incredible ability to understand people's emotions. Pain had sharpened him, darkness had taught him compassion, and for the first time, he felt proud of himself. Months later, Samuel requested to meet him, this time sober, wearing clean clothes, hands trembling from guilt instead of alcohol. Roman agreed. They sat on a park bench, the wind calm and the sun warm. Samuel lowered his head. Son, I'm sorry. I was drowning, and I dragged you with me. You didn't deserve any of it. You saved me even when I didn't deserve saving. Roman inhaled deeply. I didn't save you. I saved myself. But if you want to rebuild, you have to walk that path alone. His father nodded, not angry, not defensive, just broken, humbled, finally awake, and that, Roman realized, was the greatest revenge of all. Not destroying his father but forcing him to confront the truth, to suffer from guilt, not alcohol. To rebuild himself while Roman rebuilt his own life, Roman stood up, feeling lighter than ever. This time, he walked away, and he didn't look back.